All right, I am calling to order. This is what is actually an emergency meeting because we haven't even announced it. It was just agreed to a few hours ago of the EDC on July 27th at 8 a.m. The agenda item is simply to discuss the recommendations of Joe and Deborah and Jill and the group that came back. And you've all gotten a copy of it. I have just the two parts of it, this part, the two parts of Deb's memo that just has the conclusions of the group, which I think are fine. And there's a couple of little tweaks we might want to make. The first part is how should we process it, and the second part is really what would be on the application.
Do you see the part that has the additional points?
I didn't put that in because the additional points were good context. We all saw them, but I don't think that they were. I think this is the part that we have to decide on and recommend to the select board. The additional points, I think, were things that might go beyond this, and that we wouldn't decide today.
No, but I think there's two of them that affect this. So I'm
okay. All right. Well, why don't you say what those are?
The 10 hours versus 15 and 20 hour cutoff.
I think that's in your document. That's in, isn't that in the
it is here. Number
but
6.
Could you explain what you mean by that?
Well, hold on, before she does, so we can get all the information on the screen. And so that one is included on here. We'll discuss it. And then what's the other one?
The other one was that about how it came to be was this kind of, if we run out of money, we'll just get more. But there's no commitment from any organization to say, okay, we're going to put in more money. And I did want us to just look at that the hub felt that that we shouldn't be seeking funds from the public, because they're seeking funds from the public. I think there are several organizations that seek funds from the public, and you shouldn't say no, it can only be through one.
Well, I think, okay, keep those things in mind. What I want to make sure of, because we have a time frame, is that we make the decisions on what's on the agenda, which is how should we run. We've already approved the amount of money. I don't feel comfortable in an emergency meeting approving more or reducing the amount. Yeah, I know you're not suggesting that. Right. So therefore, the decision we have in front of us is we have $45,000.
On Zoom, she's texting.
We have $45,000. The question is, how do we want to administer the program? And then we would take both the recommendation for the 50,000, 45 plus 5, and the recommendation for how we operate and bring that to the select board. So let's do that first, and then Deb, let's come back to those other points and or bring it up if we think that it's affecting these things. So we've all had a chance to look at this. Are there comments about? I think, from my perspective at least, are there areas of disagreement or question or confusion? Maybe we start with the one, Marion, that you were asking about the 10 hours. Do you want?
Yeah, I just wasn't clear. What is that someone who was working 10 hours a week before this happened, or someone who lost up to 10 hours a week of work time? I wasn't sure what that meant.
I can clarify that, John. At the meeting, at that point was discussed, and initially I didn't think that it was necessary to identify 10 hours until I think it was Judy from DN indicated that they have employees that often only work one day a month. And so, because I had said, well, why bother putting that in? Considering that aspect, where there are employees that do work less than 10 hours a week, it seemed to me that somebody who comes in once a month for a few hours I wouldn't think, in my opinion, be eligible for this, or equal to somebody who works 20, 30, 40 hours a week. So that's why that's put in it. And to answer your question specifically, it's the hours that they had been working prior to the flood. In other words, they were working
minimum
in excess of 10 hours a week
prior
to the flood.
Deb,
John, I think we need to clarify that then on this document. It should say 10 hours a week, not just 10 hours.
this,
And I think it should say, you know, was working.
yeah,
a
but
minimum of
this
10
document
hours.
wasn't designed for something just to vote on. It was Deb
Right,
reporting
right.
back on the discussion. We're gonna
Yeah.
refine it. And Deb, do you want to,
Okay.
you want to comment on the 10 hours? Because I know you said it was a different number or,
Well, I just want to talk about how that affects our numbers and ability to put out the amount that we were talking about. Originally, the inn said, you know, it's only 30, 40 people who will come to you, but out of that, many of them won't be coming to you because they work under the hours that we were talking about. But then we reduce the hours, which means more, you know, it will increase that more. But I just, I want us to consider this, and not that I am not sensitive to the fact that they lost, you know, 2 days worth of work, but if there are people who lost 2 weeks worth of work, and they're getting only a portion of what they made by the 500 versus somebody who worked 2 days and is getting a complete replacement of those hours. And then it may mean that some people who lost 2 weeks worth of work don't get it because we don't have enough money. That's my concern.
so I think,
So-
that, yeah, I think to address that concern, the issue before us, and we can decide it here. This is the EDC. We had delegated to Deb and Joe to do exactly what they did, which is great. But the discussion for us, I think, unless we want to change the construct, which I would recommend against, I really like the X hours per week as a cutoff, and the businesses can confirm that. That's a very elegant way of doing it. I think the question is, what is X? And
yeah,
Deb, your point
not-
is, we think, let me just make sure I understand. We think that if X were 15 to 20, which it was in part of the discussion, that the inn would have less than 30 to 40 people. And so my sense is that if we did pick, let's say 15, we might get 30 people or 35 people from the inn. I think we have a sense that we know that the farmers market folks are going to want to apply. We need to talk about whether they would qualify. And because technically based on this, they don't qualify.
that's in the additional points as well.
Yeah, so
Yeah, but I think it's important to note, John, that what the inn stated was at the initial meeting when we were discussing the inn being involved with this program, the number of 300 employees at the inn came up, and then they went back, looked at it, and realized that other than 30 or 40 people, the rest of the staff was in fact working and getting a check even during the flood. They were doing different things, like, for example, the golf course was still open, the health club was still open, they had a pop-up restaurant going on, and then there were people on staff that were cleaning up and doing other stuff. So they were actually getting paid. It's not a question of how many hours they were getting. I thought I understood that they were getting their regular pay, other than the 30 or 40 people who were identified yesterday. It had nothing to do with how many hours they were working. It was just they were getting paid, and that's it.
so I think,
I wanted
Deb,
to,
go ahead.
yeah, I mean, here's where I'm thinking of it, just as far as quote, fairness. I would like to see that everybody who applies, you know, who's been working half-time or more, gets at least a portion of their money paid, you know, gets a portion, which is the $500. I almost would prefer to have it be in 2 tiers, meaning like, you know, we're going to go through the first application process, and then if we still have money left, that people who were working 1 day a week can then apply. But I think it should be closer to 15 or more hours, because my concern is that if it's 30 from the inn and 30 from another, and then we're just not going to have enough money. But anyway,
Greta and then Todd.
Hey guys, so I'm wondering if that number 10 hours per week should, instead of it referring to what they usually work, just maybe we just give an X number of hours missed due to the floods. You know, maybe it's to be eligible must have missed at least 15 hours of work due to the floods. I don't know. That's all.
per week.
per week,
Or total.
so, because we're
Total lost
considering it.
wages, right?
Well, I mean, for some, okay, so for some of the Woodstock businesses, it was about a week and a half of closures, right? And then we look at other places like the farmer's market, who it's months. So I don't know. I just kind of think it's a not per week thing. It's like if you missed at least 15 hours of work due to the flooding, you are eligible for this.
Okay. All right, Todd and then Marion. Todd, you're muted.
Thanks. I think that's not a bad idea at all, Greta. I have like my normal anxiety building of irritation. So I just want to say that two things. One is the inn's not putting any money. It's disgusting because, first of all, there's days that Woodstock residents can't even go in the inn and buy a drink or have a sandwich because they closed it off, right? They run a giant corporation. I'm not familiar with their books, but if I can go out and get $1 million from a bank right now, the inn can go out and get 50 grand from a bank, and take care of their employees. So what we're doing is because we know the inn's the largest employer, we're diluting every other person. So I say, F the inn, and they can take care of those employees or not and deal with the PR of that, because if those employees quit, there's plenty of places around town that could use them. Plenty of house cleaners, plenty of cooks, if you don't take care of your employees, so be it. Jeffrey's store probably can't the way the inn can. We talked about that. I mentioned that in the last meeting. So I just want to focus on the fact that we're diluting the shares of what small amount we have to give because a fairly large corporation is refusing to step into the plate. And again, I would advocate excluding the inn and putting the onus on them to help cover the employees or come back to the bargaining table and give us a better deal, because everyone else is suffering because of this stance they have.
All right, Marion and then Patrick, and then Joe.
I got so engaged with what Todd was saying that I forgot what I was going to say, but I will say just briefly in regard to that. I don't think we can have a personal opinion about that, but I just feel like we should have like a set policy that is as even-handed as possible. And I don't think it makes any sense. I mean, the inn, I don't want to get into arguing about the inn because we don't have a lot of time, but like they kept most of their employees working. They have some part-time people that they are handling differently. I don't know how they're handling it, but I don't think I just feel like, first of all, I feel like this program was initially designed from an EDC point of view to help with retention of employees, which I think is kind of past at this point because people are open again. But I still think it's valuable to support the employees. I wholeheartedly support that idea. But that's kind of where we've moved to, is just trying to be a good steward for the community and support people who lost work. And so I think like, I don't really love the idea of making a judgment about like how one business is running their business in this context, if it impacts the employees that were, this is sort of shifted from supporting the business to supporting the employees, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, Patrick, and then Joe.
Just to put things in perspective too, if somebody 15 hours, if they got $20 an hour, it's $300. We're talking a lot of these people who are out of work for a week and a half. So we need to look at the measurement here and understand that somebody who lost $300 versus somebody who's going to not be working potentially for months. Most likely they'll go somewhere else, but just we need to look at the dollar numbers here and not just as we're putting these numbers together, understand we're not talking about a lot of money that the short-term people lost, but the people who have worked full time, clearly have lost, a decent amount of money. So I don't know whether we should be doing this at 15 hours or higher. You had to have lost 20 hours a week to make it a little more realistic to the people who have actually been more hurt than the part-time workers.
Joe?
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. And I have a suggestion for how to deal with it. Joe and then Greta.
Well, I think Todd's comments should harken back to one of the statements I made during our original meeting. what we experienced, one of the things we experienced during this flood was the inn shut down. There was nothing going on there. There were no guests at all. And that, I think, should be an eye-opener to how valuable a healthy, well-run inn is to the rest of the community. And given where HR at yesterday's meeting, I think prior to it, said no, it wasn't 300 employees impacted, it was only 30 or 40. I think it would be a mistake not to embrace and not include the inn, as big as they are, and they are the #1 employer and money generator in the town for everybody. I think it'd be a mistake to say, no, let them get their own money. And as far as what Jill said about getting money, I don't think she referred to going, she did say something about the housing project and maybe taking money from that and use it next year, but I specifically heard her say,
Do we
you know,
lose?
100 we'll just raise more money and take care of them. So those are 2 points I think are important to make, particularly the one about the inn. I think it'd be a big mistake to say, no, you can't play in this game. I think that's the wrong thing to do.
I've lost track a little bit of who's raised their hand. Is it Deb? Deb?
Am I next? I thought it was.
Yeah, Deb,
Deb.
Greta, and Patrick's hands are up. So let's do those 3 in order, and then I just want to make a comment. Deb, go ahead.
I mean, I am frustrated. I would love for the inn to step up, because I know that a lot of their people also lost their home. There are people in the park that lost their home. And at the same time, I do want to go check to what Joe said, but it's not going to happen. So it's a matter of moving forward, and EDC will not look good if we exclude the workers at the inn. I just think that that's going to be bad and blow back on us. So given that, I also think, again, running the numbers that Patrick ran, 10 hours, or 20 hours total, or whatever we were coming up with, somebody who only worked that is getting a complete replacement, as opposed to somebody who might have lost part, that only replaces a part. And I just want to make sure that the people who are only getting a part get that first, and maybe period, So for me, it really feels like it should be, if we're going to do total hours, then it should be a total of 30 hours or above. So that's 15 hours per week. So that we make sure all of those people get paid. The other thing was, yes, Jill mentioned maybe we can forego a certain portion of an EDC grant to replace it, or maybe the hub can raise more money. And I did send a message to her later saying, okay, is that a commitment? And she said, no, that's not a commitment at this time. So it's not, we have 90, and if we need more for this program, the hub will put up. And they were very specific about saying, we don't want anybody to be raising money separately for a similar thing than we're doing, so there's if we're going to just stay to 90, let's get the people partially paid. And everybody in the meeting was in agreement on the Woodstock Farmers Market that by the time people start getting their money, is going to be very close to the time that those people are out of work, so that they should be included in the program.
Greta, and then Patrick, and then me.
I agree with Deb, as far as if we up the number of hours missed for work. I mean, across the board, everyone's making different hourlies, and we can't compare what everyone's losses are. But I think if we talk about it more as, you don't have to use the word stimulus, but like a stimulus, we're putting out a certain amount of money, no matter what, everyone who's eligible is getting the same amount. And that's what it is. The EDC just wants to support the workforce. And here it is. I don't think we, beyond making sure that someone really, was affected by a certain amount of lost hours, I don't think we need to split hairs too much.
Patrick, and then me.
To Joe's comment about the inn, everybody was closed, not just the inn. So whether the inn had guests or not, nobody could be open. So I think that's a moot point.
No, we weren't
Yes.
closed, Patrick. We weren't closed from most of the time the inn was. We were open.
Well, how could you be open with water, with no water?
Well,
You know, but anyway, the point being is,
no, that is the point.
the point being is, most everybody was closed. If you were the only one open, Joe, God bless you. But my point is that the inn being closed didn't really affect business because most businesses were closed. But I think that we can't exclude them. I think that's a mistake. I think we just set the hours at the right level, the missed hours at the right level, so that the right people get the money. People who lost the most should be the ones more eligible to get the money. So if we put the hours up high enough, we don't put any qualification of where you work, just how many hours you missed. I think that would be the smarter way to go. And that way we're not pointing anybody out.
Agreed.
Okay, so all right. So I think it sounds like I agree. I think we shouldn't exclude the inn because I think that they retained 200. It sounds like they retained on their payroll while they were closed 260 out of 300 employees, and I don't think there weren't many businesses certainly who retained that percentage of people. So I think to exclude them because they only kept 260 is wrong. So
I think there's no point in talking about it because I'm the only one who thought that way. But I would also say that out of that conversation, becoming let's increase the hours satisfies many things for me, and that makes me feel great. So I don't want to exclude the inn either. I'm just trying to get counterpoint stuff.
No, no one thought you were trying to. Yeah, you were looking. Yeah, I understand.
I am mad at them, but this is great conversation. The hours is great for me.
I am concerned, Greta. I want to go back to one comment that you made that, you said we wouldn't use the word stimulus, but we're really just sort of trying to, support the employees. I am nervous the further away we get from replacing lost wages, because the community has been very clear, and this is prior to your coming on the EDC, but we've done surveys twice, once at the beginning of COVID and once, I don't know, about a year or 18 months ago. And the community is quite opposed to us writing checks to for-profit businesses for almost any reason, unless they're giving specifically something back to the community. The exemption from that is if it's an emergency like COVID. And I think this absolutely qualifies. It's an emergency like COVID. No concern. I mean, there is actually a small segment, I think it was 20%, who said, even then we shouldn't do it. But there's always going to be 20% who say we shouldn't do something. But I'm nervous, but I'm a little bit nervous about, the person who works one day a month and gets $500 and so forth. And so what I think would be useful is thinking about the idea that that some people are going, and Deb, you mentioned this and others did too, that some people are only going to get a portion of what they lost. If they were not working for 2 weeks and they're making $20 an hour and they're full time, that's, I think that's $1,600. But I don't think we can afford to pay, and actually mechanically, because we don't want to go over the 600, I think 500 should be the maximum. So what I would do is say, like, something in effect, if you either missed, or if you missed or will in the future miss because of a future closing, and it's really only the farmer's market, I'll pick a number, 15 hours a week will give you $250. If you missed more than 30 hours a week, we'll give you $500. Or something like that, and at 30 or more, you get 500. 30 or less.
System.
Sorry, or maybe it's 20. I'm trying to think of 20.
It's a tiered.
Anyway, those two levels, you get 250 or 500, and then I just want to tie that to point number 10. I think the easiest way to do this is have the applications come in over a very short period of time from the employees. We then take each list by company, because we're asking on the form for the companies, and say, Deb or Joe, Sam, Joe's daughter, Sam, here are the 7 people who applied. these 5 people applied in the more than 25 hours, and these 2 people applied in the in the lower category. Here's how much we're planning to give them. Would you please validate these assumptions? And the employer gets to, you know, to validate that.
Yes.
So I would propose those 2, and we just have to pick the number of hours. I'd propose those changes. All the other changes, in my view, are, I mean, all the other things are fine. Larry first, and then Deb.
And then me.
And
Yeah,
then,
this is, we seem to be using this requirement of a W-9 as a constraint. Does somebody here know that in fact our giving money to employees requires a W-9? That's for independent contractors. Somebody knows that answer?
yes,
Okay.
if the town is going to write a check, they require that we issue a W-9, which I believe is because they are required to.
Yeah, it's true.
They are, that's the law.
The town told us that it's going to be very hard for them to process this program because they're going to have to issue W-9s to everybody. Well, we said it's less than 600. They said, oh, if it's less than 600, we don't have to do W-9s.
Plus, Larry, at 500 with no W-9, it's tax free. At 601, they're paying taxes on it.
Yep.
Yeah, and the other piece of it, I mean, we're using it as a constraint in a way, but it's not because of the numbers of people, you
Right.
know.
I just wanted to know, because I did some looking into it and I couldn't find where that
Right.
type of transfer was required a W-9, but whatever.
Only because they're not a nonprofit, so if they get any kind of
Who's not a
funding,
nonprofit?
the employees. If you give the
It's just going
employees
through the-
$500, they're not a nonprofit business. You know, they have to they have to.
Then that doesn't
Yes,
matter.
it's a W-9 for anybody you pay unless it's a nonprofit.
So I just would like to make a suggestion, and whatever people think. I like the tier system, John. I would like to say that the lower tier, the 250, is available after the other tiered is paid, and if we still have the money, because it would be a shame if, because of the lower tiered, some of the people who are in the higher tier don't get paid because we don't have enough.
Okay, let's see how people feel about that, but it's certainly I understand the objective of it. It's a reasonable suggestion. Joe?
Please correct me if I'm wrong. Probably the 4th time this morning. But this is an EDC program. And as best as I can understand, and from what I understand from Jill, again, I could be wrong about this, that applying for this EDC program does not exclude them from the ability to apply to Hub in addition.
That's right.
Correct.
So, we will gladly assist, but this assistance doesn't mean they cannot apply to Hub in addition to us. So I think that's an important thing to remember.
Todd?
Yeah, and in a legal sense, there would be no way for the Hub to know, because this money is like as if you hand anybody on the street $500 or whatever it is. Like, there is no reporting for it. There is no requirement to report to the IRS. I mean, you actually should, but they don't have to. So unless the town was going to go and give some list, which sounds shady and weird, like there would be no way for the Hub to know unless someone said yes or no anyway of their own accord. It's money that is untraceable in that way once it goes out the door, as far as
I don't think that's necessary anyway, Todd.
Right.
I think they can, it could be above board and it still wouldn't matter. I don't think.
Okay. All right. I think, by the way, just so people are aware, there is going to be a governing law about what the EDC is, what type of information the EDC is required to disclose publicly. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to promote it or publish it, but what information, I should say, that is accessible to the public if they request it. And that law is going to determine whether or not we have to, if the Hub asked, did Patrick Foltz get $500, or please give us a list of the people who did. There is a law that will say whether we're required to do that or whether we're allowed to not say.
like an FOIA kind of thing.
Yeah, it's the open meeting law in Vermont. Yeah, like the FOI,
Okay.
exactly. So I just want
That's
to
cool.
be able to make clear, I don't know, there are certain pieces of information that are considered, there are certain pieces of information that are protected from that. And I don't know what that this is, because I don't think that the law kind of considered that. So I don't think it's going to happen. We're not going to publish a list proactively. There's no requirement that we do that. But I just want people to be aware that could, I just want people to be aware of that. Patrick, and then I want to see if we can bring this to this part of it to a conclusion. Patrick?
Okay, I was gonna propose that we did 20 hours for the 500 and at least 10 hours for the 250. So you got 10 to 19 hours for the 250. I might even make it 200, and then 20 and up, you do the 500. I think that would be a good breakout if people think the same thing. From a math standpoint, it's $200 versus $400 per week.
Todd?
I would just do 12 because the half day folks are sometimes they're at 5 hours, sometimes they're at 4. So if someone's going into 12, they're really full-time, half-time employees. You know what I mean? It's like they're going Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I would just advocate for 12.
So 12 to 19 and then
Yeah.
20 and up.
Yeah.
12 hours, you get 250. More than, sorry, below, more 12 to less than 20, you get 250, 20 or more, you get 500.
Yes.
That's the proposal.
And what I like what Deb said, we'll do the 20 or mores first, and then what's left goes to the 12 to 19s.
Let me just suggest that we divide up the voting on that, just so we don't have to have long discussions to see who's going to convince who. Let's just see what we initially think. First is, let's just vote on, I think the program that is here, we've been discussing points 6, 7, and 8. And it's sort of, we've basically got point 7, must have missed 12 hours missed or will miss, right? Due to flood.
And that's weekly.
Oh, that's,
Do we care if it's weekly or do we care if it's,
I don't actually care, but that was brought up earlier.
I think it total, because
because if somebody's missed
on
work
the-
for 2 weeks and got a total of 12 hours and somebody missed 1 week, but I don't know if.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
So 12 hours less than 20, 250. I'm just writing this down. Or 20 plus 500. And then let's just vote then separately on a separate question, so that you can vote for, so that you don't have to vote against that. Separately, do we do the second, do we fulfill all requests for the second group first? And let's discuss that one separately. Is that all right, Deb? So we'll get to that. So
Yeah.
are there any other suggestions about of what's on the page here? Just take a quick check here.
John,
We just want to
propose,
change item 3 because I don't think we need a number there. It was just
No,
doing the
item
math,
3
but
is
that
just
math.
for
might-
information.
Nor number 2, because we're duplicating.
Right.
right. So John, I make a motion, we accept this for the tier levels and the dollar amounts.
Well, how about if we accept everything that's on the page?
Okay,
We're also accepting the,
that's what I meant, actually.
Okay.
Yes. I propose we accept everything on the page.
okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
If we're gonna really vote on it, how about that last sentence in 6? Is that necessary?
Yeah, right, sorry. Yeah, sorry. No, yeah, right. We're voting on the substance of it. I think actually now we're pretty close to the actual words. But there's some, there's a few words missing, but not substantive. Okay, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor? Aye.
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 How do we have 8 people? I thought we only have 7.
Patrick's is still here.
Twice.
I
know.
haven't, I'm
Oh,
officially
okay, sorry,
done
okay,
as of
yeah.
today, John. I will send you an official letter today.
Okay, all right.
'Cause I'm
That's fine.
officially moving today.
What are you on an island somewhere, John? You're just confused.
All those in favor? Sorry, I didn't see.
Aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, What about the processing the bigger ones first? I'm okay with that. I guess I'm okay with it, but it feels for someone who worked 19 hours, they lost $380. And it just feels like we're trying to spread I don't know that full-time.
John, may I jump in here for a
Yeah,
second?
anyway, I'm just
don't think-
hesitant.
I
I
don't
don't
think-
feel strongly about it. Joe?
I don't think any employee is gonna say, no, I only work 19 and a half hours. They're gonna say they work 20. And I don't think any employer is gonna say, no, you didn't. You only worked 19 and a half. I mean, it's gonna jump into that category.
What if
Really,
someone who worked, someone who worked 8 hours, or someone who worked 12 hours?
Yeah, that's different. But if it gets up close to
No.
if it
I'm
gets close
not.
to 20 hours, they're gonna jump into that category.
I know. My point isn't that we're setting a line. Obviously, any program that has 2 categories has the problem of what if you're close to the line. I'm just wondering
Right.
why it is that we should favor the people who are working more hours.
Because
I
that's
think-
probably their income, their main income,
Yeah.
whereas
Yeah,
part-time.
if you're working 1 or 2, 1 day a week, you probably have income from other sources.
Somewhere else. That's
relying on
exactly
it.
Good point. Okay.
Sure.
We only
Alright.
have so much. I don't think.
Lots of
everybody
cash
who works-
economy in Vermont.
All right, so
Yeah.
Deb, you make,
Somebody who works 8 hours a week is gonna not understand this,
That's
you
right.
know, like,
Okay,
oh.
Deb, can you
people
make
were
the-
impacted with me.
can you make the motion then?
Wait, stand by before this.
I just lost.
For the hub and anything else like that, or should we put an assistance page as an addendum to the literature that we put out?
Well, the messaging of this we can discuss.
Okay.
So Deb, do you just want to make the motion then that, just repeat what you said before?
Well, I think it in lieu of us only having $45,000, this is the reason why we're doing the tiered system. So excuse me, because we only have that, the tiered system is during the review process, the people with 20 plus come first, and then after that, you process the 12 and less.
Point of procedure on this, what would be the processing time where then we decide that we're going to go and release to the next tier?
Right, so
That was the 1 week process, the 1 week. So
Okay.
we know what we have within 1 week. And then if we have more money, we can keep it open, but
well, it's really not within 1 week. It's really, I think what we're saying is that you have 1 week to submit your application. We get all
Right.
the applications in, we check them with the businesses. We check them with the businesses. If it's $45,000 or less, we give everyone what has been verified with their employer, what they've requested, and we keep the applications open. If there's less than $45,000, we meet the needs of the $500 people first, give the remainder to the $250 people in proportion,
yeah.
and don't have any further. And
Can
don't
we
have any
just,
further.
can we just change the
or we
language
still
to
have money.
prioritizing rather
Yeah.
than, so we prioritize, so we'd process everything all at once. We just prioritize the people that lost the higher tier of hours so that,
I like that.
because I do think the
Yeah, I like that
urgency is an
word.
issue. I mean, it starts to become
Yeah. so
$250 in 3 months is, I know
pro-
that's.
we're processing all at
but-
once, 1 week, yeah.
Yeah, it's all in 1 week, but, and if we can process both of them and still have money left, we keep it open, we basically keep it open until the 45 is done. Yes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
like
I think this is pretty correctly and misspelled. Okay, process all at once. The application period is 1 week. Prioritize the higher tier if it's sufficient funds.
Great.
perfect.
Great
And then we would
job.
do the remaining tier in proportion. So if there's only enough to give everyone in the $250 tier 200, we give them 200. We don't,
Yeah.
there's no
Oh,
first
well
come, first
done.
served.
Yes. Well done. Okay,
All right,
that
so does
makes
everyone
sense.
understand that? All right, so then,
Yeah.
Yep.
sorry, so can we then just,
I second that.
okay, fine. So we're now just voting on point number 5.
Hold on. I need to ask a question there. Sorry. if I'm applying and I think it's 250 and then I get 200, something has to be communicated to that
Then
person.
up to $250.
Huh?
Yeah.
No, I think we just say
Up to.
Because if you say we're going to, we have to aggregate it to 200, and the person's like, wait, I thought I was going to get 250. Something has to be said to them ahead of time.
Explain this to everyone in advance. How's that? And then we'll figure out what.
Yeah,
the
it's
exact
based
word
on
is.
demand, right? And supply
Well,
and
this
demand.
is
so we
actually a
don't know.
whole different question because we actually voted on 250 and 500 until we run out. And what you're saying is we're going to see how many people and divide it evenly, which is a different
Yeah,
thing.
No. We voted that the two levels, we voted that the two levels would be 250 and 500. And what we're now saying, I thought it was clear. If we want, we can just simply vote on this whole thing now that we've discussed it. You're making a technical legal point, Marion, about whether we.
No, I'm actually asking a clarifying point, which is, are we saying that we're going to give 500 and 250 until we run out? Or are we saying
No.
if we get more applications, we're going to divide by the total and split it up in some way? So
Neither.
that some people might get less than 250.
Yes, but we're going to divide up only the 250, not the 500. There's three possibilities. We have more money than we have applications. People will then get 500 and 250 depending on what they applied for. The second possibility is we have enough to give everyone who applied for 500, but not enough to give everyone who applied for 250, 250. And therefore, we will give everyone who applied for 500, and we will give everyone who applied for 250 the amount remaining in the pool divided by the number of people who asked for 250. So they might get 240 or 230 or 200 or whatever. The third possibility is that we don't have enough to give 500 to every person who applied for 500, in which case we will divide the entire pool among the 500 people and the $250 people will get nothing. That is consistent with
That's
the
a
word that we used as to what we
Yeah.
wanted to do. That's how the math would work out. Now, we don't have to do it that way. I'm
Yeah.
just explaining what I interpreted. We want to pay the 500 people first before we pay the 250 people.
And that's because we're assuming the hardship is on the 20+ hour employees in a greater way because they're in those jobs, right?
They have
That's
to,
what-
well,
that's
because
what we're saying.
those are a more important part of their income. The other people presumably have other income.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I agree with that.
I support that. I don't think I fully understood that that's what how we were thinking about it. So thank you for clarifying that.
I
right, well, do you-
do want to ask because it was different last night. We ended up at a different place, or the 2 nights ago, which was that we said when we start to change it, it becomes less valuable, and that we want to do 500 as a minimum for the full-time employees. And rather than continue to say you get up to $500 based on blah, blah, blah. And that if we need to raise more money, then we figure out that, do we change something to raise more money? I think
That's exactly the way it was stated. If we need to meet, if we don't have enough money to satisfy the applicants, then as it was said to me at the meeting yesterday, we'll just raise more money.
But she
No, no,
said
hold-
she
hold-
couldn't
That's
commit
how
to
we
it.
said.
Hold on one second. There's a royal we in there that is really important.
Yeah.
Right? The hub
Yes.
can do whatever the hub wants, whether it's
Exactly.
spending
Right.
money or raising money.
Mhm.
Okay,
The hub
okay, that's fair.
The hub cannot take money that people who worked for the hub, Jill, who also work for the EDC, cannot take money that has been voted on for housing and allocate it to anything but the program that was specified to. Period.
Right.
Full stop.
That's right. But she wasn't suggesting that, John. She wasn't
According to
suggesting
Deborah's
that.
notes-
She was
According
suggesting
to Deborah's
that
notes,
hub would raise more money, period.
according to
I think
Deb's
we'd
notes, she
suggest
mentioned
that.
both. And I'm sure that Jill didn't do
Yes.
And
it.
we're not connected to the hub.
I'm sure
I mean, the
that
bottom line, we're
Just
not connected to the
as
hub.
a
The hub.
possibility for the EDC to consider, not for her to do.
Okay, first of all, why are we even including the hub in this decision? They
agree.
had nothing to do with us. Throw the hub out. They're going to do what the hub does.
correct.
We're not talking about the hub. We're talking about the EDC and what we can do with our
Right.
money. So the hub's not part
I
of
agree.
this.
And we just need to decide, are we giving a minimum amount of 500 or 250, or are we dividing it up at And I'm just, sorry, I'm being short, but we're running out of time, so.
No, we can't answer that question, Marion, because just to be clear, we don't have any more money. And the only way we can raise more money is to implement another options tax, which the voted. Marion, you're muted.
So I understand that. What I'm saying is there's two ways. We have a total amount of money. We can either say we're going to give 500 and 250 out until we run out of money, or we say we take the total number of people who applied and divide it and give them up to 500 based on that. There's two ways of looking at this, and we have to decide which one we're doing.
Right.
first
Fixed amount or right.
There aren't two ways, Marion. There are more than
There's three.
Ways. There are more than two ways to do it. And
You're right. There's three ways. Yeah,
Okay.
or more.
And so it seemed like, yeah, there are more than three ways, but it seemed like the idea of meeting as much of the need as possible of the $500 people before we met as much of the need as possible for the $250 people was a principle that people favored. Given that, and the fact that we cannot raise more money right now, given those two facts, there's really only one way to satisfy those two facts of the various ways in which we could pay this. And that is that if we have not enough money, let me work from the bottom. If we have not enough money to give $500 to every $500 applicant, we take however much money we have and give them each the same amount, 490, 480, 470. If after doing that, we have money left over, we give as much as we can to the $250 people. 250 if we have enough, or 240 or 230. If we have money left over after that, we continue to accept applications and we continue to pay them according to the same rules that we did in the first. That, I think, is the only way that can meet, if I'm reading what the group would like to, the words that we'd like to, the way we'd like to prioritize, that's I think the only way to meet it precisely. So are you okay with that, Marion? Does that make sense? And that is different.
Oh, yeah.
That
I just
clear.
wanted to clarify it.
Yeah, okay. All right.
It wasn't clear, and
Yeah.
now it is clear. So
It was not clear. I agree. Okay, so
Let's vote on it before we get messed up again.
Yeah,
Given
I
that-
agree
It's a
with
lot of
Todd.
words.
I'll make the motion to do it exactly that way, and the words on this page don't quite get to that, but they're pretty close. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, then any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? I didn't see everybody. Joe, you're opposed.
No, I'm not.
Oh, you're not. Sorry, I have bad internet connection. I think
No, I'm not. I raised in favor.
okay, sorry.
Joe's he's just relaxed.
No, I just got a message. My internet connection. My internet connection is not.
You did that on purpose.
No. My internet is bad.
Unanimous ayes, John.
All right.
I
All right.
am
Let
in
me just.
favor.
This is
Can I
a really
suggest-
good program. Good work, everyone. This is going to help people.
Yeah.
I'm just going to suggest, in the interest of time, that we voted on. I just want to call attention to this because going forward, as we think about the actual process, we included this point. The EDC will validate with the employer. I mentioned that verbally. It was in Deb's note. It's on this slide. Unless anyone is uncomfortable with that or needs further debate, I mean, we did vote on it technically, then I would just going to suggest that we simply pick a small group of people to finalize what's on this next page, which is a simple application form. I think it's fine the way it is. It gives us the information that we need to go back to the employer, especially who is your employer and how many hours did you lose? We're going to have to do the 12-20 thing. And I think this is fine, but if there's any tweaks to it, I think we could delegate to 2 people to get this form finalized by Tuesday morning, which is when the select board is going to hear our recommendations. 5,000 for the messaging, 45,000 for this pool, executed the way we talked about, and then they won't have to approve the form. So we don't need to debate the form if there are 2 people who would like to design it, if the rest of us are comfortable delegating to those 2. And Deb, since I hate to put this on you, but you did the first version of it, do you mind being one of the 2 people?
Well, I wanted to actually ask if somebody else knows how to do a Google form. I can do it, but I'm also doing all the videos, so I'm super.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine.
verbiage.
So let's have someone. No, I mean, I can do the technical part of it. That's fine.
Okay, yeah, just the technical part of it, but I'm happy to be involved otherwise.
Okay, so who just to design it, make sure these are the right, or maybe we just keep these are the questions.
These are fine with me.
Does anyone disagree? I'm sensitive because I know Marion actually, I'm sure Marion has to Well,
hard
actually,
stop.
You're at your office, Marion, unless you have a beautiful home office.
Do we want average hours worked weekly, or do we want something more specific?
That was before the last conversation, so that does need to change, so.
So we're gonna change this, and I'm gonna, someone needs to consider this. We have to be very careful about what we promise. I'm not saying we shouldn't promise it. We have to investigate the law. I don't want to tell, there's a possibility this information is.
We keep it
disclosable.
confidential unless law dictates otherwise, something along those things. And we have Attorney Larry here can come up with something great.
Well, but I think okay.
Attorney,
So we have to change this, yeah. And this, by the way, I think they don't have to, the employer will verify this, so we can take that off the form. Right?
I think it's good to put it on the
Well,
form.
let's
just so that
let's
people are
update the
aware of
form
that
with the two
requirement.
people. I'll help on the form. Let's let everyone go.
Okay.
Let's get this form going. We'll send it out. We can do that thing where people can update it online, maybe like we've done in the past,
This is simple. I mean, nobody,
and make the changes. Is that?
I don't even think we have to come back to the group. I mean, there's nobody we're now really nitpicking.
No.
Todd, if you want to work on it.
No,
I'm fine. Yeah,
Okay, well, actually,
I
that's
don't know.
done, fine.
It's all good to me personally.
Yeah, by the way, the checks can be picked up in town hall.
I think you just want to put a note of like, check if you want to pick up and check if it's sent,
Check box.
yeah, we're doing
Do not wanna
details
use
now,
the-
guys.
Hey, okay.
We're doing details.
I agree. You know what, I'll take care of this.
Wait, wait. Wait a minute. That point about picking up checks at the town hall was discussed yesterday at the meeting. And the point was brought up, and just let me reiterate what was said at the meeting, is that some people might be too embarrassed to walk in the town hall and say, can I have a check?
Then
They can choose to have it mailed then.
Yeah, so, yes, exactly. So let's mail it out.
Well, no, let's give them the choice. If they're embarrassed,
Yeah.
check the box.
All right.
Mail
it's a
doesn't
choice.
work in Woodstock, so that's a bad idea.
No, we're gonna have the check. We're checking the box. We'll have them check the box.
I'm just sharing with you what was discussed yesterday. At the meeting.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. I'm happy to just get this done. This is easy for me to do. So
Great. Great.
Okay.
I
Great.
think we're done. This is great. Sorry for all these meetings, but I think the way
No,
we
this is great.
problem solve this
Thank you.
is really good.
Best picnic benches ever. Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Bye.
Enjoy your vacation, John.
Yeah, John.
Very vacation,
John.
John. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Thanks, everybody.
Tonight is the
Appreciate you guys.
webcast. Don't forget.
Oh, got it.
I couldn't understand what you said.
Tonight is the
Webcast
webcast. You guys don't have to
tonight.
attend.
Tonight is the webcast.
You don't have to attend. It's just at 7:00 tonight. Susanna Stein has organized it for the local businesses, and I hope.
Yeah.
So, Joe, I sent you an email about that.
There will
Yeah.
be a recording, right, available?
That was a nice email also.
Yeah.
That you wrote in the listserv.
All right, good. All right, thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.